Support comes from the Rosa Parks Museum on Troy University's Montgomery campus. Located on the spot of Mrs. Parks' historic 1955 arrest and featuring exhibits that chronicle the history of the Montgomery bus boycott. More information at troy.edu/Rosa Parks.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. Ted Turner made a famous movie about the Battle of Gettysburg. Colonel Bryan Morgan, retired Judge Advocate General of the Alabama National Guard, shares another mystery today about the ghost of Gettysburg. Colonel Morgan, welcome back. We have so enjoyed your historical mysteries that we've named you the radio detective.
Carolyn, always love talking with you. I'll take that. Thank you.
What have you been looking into lately?
Today I'm going to talk about Ted Turner, and particularly Ted Turner's movie, Gettysburg, that he, with his wealth and knowledge and power, made in 1993. He based the movie on a book I had to read as part of the military, The Killer Angels, and a lot of your listeners probably read that book. I attended the U.S. Army War College and graduated in '05. And as part of our instruction, we toured Gettysburg. They used it to teach lessons in leadership, professionalism, tactics, ethics. And as we went around the battlefield, you can see all the various monuments, and our faculty advised us, well, you know, there's the movie, and we've heard from the urban rumor is that there's some ghosts that appear in that movie. So that's what I started looking into.
Well, here we are in that era of the Battle of Gettysburg between the North and the South, July 1st through July 3rd, 1863. So what you discovered, was it related to that time period or the movie's time period?
It is all related to the movie. My class rented the movie. We watched it. It's 4 hours long, and it details each of the days. It was a 3-day battle, and he had a stellar cast and a great director in Ronald Maxwell. He required all of the actors and extras to camp on the battlefield or stay in a motorhome. They were looking for realism, and Turner himself was in the movie.
Who did Ted Turner portray?
He plays a Colonel Waller Patton. Martin Sheen played Robert E. Lee. Tom Berenger played Longstreet, Lee's right-hand man. Jeff Daniels played one of the stars. That's Joshua Chamberlain, a colonel from the Maine military. And then Sam Elliott, with the deep voice, played General John Buford. If you recall, this was Lee's approach into Washington during the war, and he was stopped the first day by Buford. Then the battlefield becomes somewhat a fishhook around the little town of Gettysburg, with the hook around the city and it running due south. On the second day, the Battle of Little Round Top became the action. And there, Jeff Daniels portrays Joshua Chamberlain of the 20th Maine as he defends this small mountain that overlooked the whole battlefield. And the Devil's Den. And supposedly, for years, people's cameras would not work around the Devil's Den. You know, they would take pictures, and then they wouldn't work there, but start working later. Daniels and his men, or Chamberlain and his men, fired all of their ammunition until they were out. And then they had, on that second day, a bayonet charge down the hill against the 4th Alabama and the Texans, and that saved the day.
You mentioned Little Round Top. Can you tell us more about it?
Well, Little Round Top is a smaller mountain surrounded at the base by a lot of rocks. And it was a pivotal land feature for both sides to try to maintain to control this battle. It was the southern end of the Union line. It was defended by Jeff Daniels portraying Joshua Chamberlain. In the reenactment of the battle, where the Union troops fired all of their ammunition, they conducted a bayonet charge down the hill against the Alabama and the Texas troops. And then in the filming of that scene, one older reenactor offered to give live ammunition to the extras. They knew they shouldn't do that, and they didn't, but they never could identify who he was. Later, some Confederate reenactors saw a campfire up at Little Round Top. They made the hike through the Devil's Den up to the top of Little Round Top, and there was no campfire, but they did have the smell of fire, coffee, and perhaps some bacon being cooked.
That's pretty spooky. So what happened on the third day?
Now, the third day involved Pickett's charge, where all 5,000 reenactors were utilized. The Southerners were in the tree line to the west of Cemetery Ridge, and the Union reenactors were aligned along Cemetery Ridge. Pickett and the other Southerners made the trek up the hill to the angle where the major combat took place, and it was a horrendous fight. The Southerners almost broke through, but the Union drove them back, so they never pierced the Union line. Pickett's charge, which so many people died in. Everyone I spoke to after our class watched this movie said, yeah, there were supposed to be 5,000 extras, but there's another several hundred that appear in the movie. They couldn't account for all the extra people.
In 1861, a photographer named William Mumler invented spirit photographs. You could actually transpose that into the photo, and what you're talking about now is film. How do you account for all of this?
Well, yes, and it was filmed in 1993 by Ted Turner. I have not gotten to the bottom of it. I know that during my time at the War College, that was an urban rumor that more faces appeared in that final scene that were there, along with these other sightings by the reenactors themselves.
Did those in the movie ever make a statement to account for this?
The reenactors that made it to the top of Little Round Top said that was not part of the script. No one had permission to be up there. There was no evidence of a campfire. They just thought maybe the spirits had a meeting there. I've seen all of the scenes. Buford stopping Lee as he enters Gettysburg, Chamberlain's defense of Little Round Top, the frontal assault by the Confederate soldiers against the Union soldiers. And it is an epic picture, if you will. And even Ted Turner himself is in that last battle scene, which ends the battle. Lee then returned south, and the Union was preserved.
Were you able to locate any comments from any of the cameramen about these anomalies?
And I've looked for that. I've not been able to find that. All I've found are these comments from the reenactors that participated themselves. I saw an interview with Maxwell, and he did not talk about that. He more or less talked about Turner's insistence that it be made accurately and that it should be realistic. Along with his money, he did everything he could to see that the movie got made. It was originally going to be a mini-series, but Turner decided to go with a 4-hour movie.
And the name of it again?
Gettysburg. It's based on the book The Killer Angels.
So what's your explanation as a result of your investigation?
Little Round Top had a campfire that was not authorized, nor was it in any of the movies. Neither was the live ammunition that was offered to the Union troops in the defense of Little Round Top. And no one can quite account for all the extra faces in the final scene with Pickett's charge. I would caution your listeners, the next time they take a tour of Gettysburg, count the number of people in your tour group and count them at the end and make sure you don't have some additional guests.
Well, Colonel Morgan, thank you for that intriguing look at what was going on in that movie about Gettysburg.
It is a mystery to me, Carolyn, and as we celebrate our 250th anniversary, I hope we can remember that President Lincoln honored and dedicated that ground in our nation's history, and it would be an indicator that our nation always heals.
That was Colonel Bryan Morgan, retired Judge Advocate General of the Alabama National Guard. He'll join us again in the future as he investigates another mystery. Thanks for joining us today for In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is listener-supported Troy Public Radio.